labeler, I want to touch on it. You know, we introduced civil labeler in the 1010-0103 version, or the 2021 R1 back last July. And we spent a lot of time going over it. And if you're like me, there was one area of that I really didn't understand, and that was the multiple targets. Now, this civil labeler is really nice. When we built it, we wanted to do something that basically went above and beyond what you could do in our legacy labelers in Geopack or Inroads or MX. We wanted to go far beyond that. And what really it's got some nice stuff in it. For example, the customizable prompting where you can set your own prompts. I mean, that's nice. But what really sets this labeler above and beyond anything we could do in the legacy is the ability to create these multiple targets. Okay. So if we come in here, and I wanted to focus on that just a little bit today. Now, when you first open the labeler, of course, you guys know you're in what's called what we would call a production mode, right? We figure that 99% of the time that somebody's going to be opening a labeler, they're just going to want to place a label, and so we kind of hide, we minimize the options, but you have the ability to go into manager mode. Now, there's two ways you can go into manager mode. If you actually have got a label selected, you can hit the little pencil icon at the bottom of the dialog, or anywhere from the tree, you can just right click and go into manager mode. Now, once you're inside of manager mode, you get a few changes, right? For example, the first thing you'll see is the icons at the top of the dialog that allows you to create folders or remove folders or create new text favorite or delete text favorites, save, those kind of things, right? You're in this manager mode now. You also have the ability in manager mode to get additional targets and define things. You get a different tab, in the when you're not in manager mode, you just have a placement tab. When you go into manager mode, you get access to this label tab. And one of the things that the label tab does is allow you to access and define your targets. Okay. So the first thing you do is identify the text favorite. The text favorite will figure out how many targets you have. Down on the bottom, you have the ability it shows you what each target is going to be calculating. You have the ability to identify what you want the user to do for the target. For example, do you want them to actually select the target, or do you just want the target to be the same as one that's already selected? And then, of course, we mentioned earlier, you have the ability to customize your own prompts, right? You can customize and make the prompt say whatever you want to say. So as I said, the real intelligence, the real functionality here that allows this to be so much better than our other labels is this ability to target multiple things. So let's go back, for example. Notice in this station one that we're using here, this is an intersecting geometry. So what this label does, it identifies two alignments and it calculates the intersection point. Now notice that, notice you got two targets. The first target, we're going to say identify the first intersecting geometry. We're going to ask the user to actually select it. And what we're going to calculate from that is the station of the intersection point. Now notice we've got a second target. We're going to prompt the user to identify the second intersecting geometry, and the prompt type is select. So we want them to identify it, and we're going to calculate the station. So we have two targets, which are two different alignments, and we're going to calculate two different stations. Now here's another one where we've got four targets. Now notice, and this is what I think the biggest problem people have with this is just figuring this out, but it's really very simple. Your targets always correspond to the number of fields that are being calculated. So in this one, we're calculating two stations and two names. Okay, that's four targets, right? In this one, we've added an elevation. So we're calculating 2 names, 2 stations, and 2 elevations. So that's a total of 6 different targets. So that's the key here is your targets always correspond to the number of fields being calculated. Now, you can go as complicated as you want. So here, for example, is a label. It's one text favorite. It has 11 different computed text fields. Okay. 3 different selections. We're going to ask them to identify 2 different alignments and a terrain. And it'll calculate, again, it's calculating names and stations and elevations and coordinates. Again, you can be, this is as powerful and you can build as complicated and target as many things as you want to do. So I thought what I would do here is actually build one and show you how this works. Okay. So I'm going to build a text favorite and I'm just going to go through the whole process and kind of show it to you here. So I'm going to build a text favorite. I'm going to start by selecting an element. Now, the text favorite, let me stop this. The text favorite that I want to build here is I want to calculate 2 pieces of geometry or identify 2 pieces of geometry. And I want to calculate the intersection point. And I want to build a label based on some information about that intersection point. Okay. So I'm going to start out and I'm going to try to use the select tool. So I would recommend you try to use the select tool as often as you can. So I'm going to select the select tool. Now, notice I can get certain things from the select tool. For example, if I need the alignment name, I can just select the feature name right here, and it'll give me the feature name. Now, in parentheses, I want to put the station of that alignment at that intersection point. Now, notice here, the select tool doesn't do me any good because that point doesn't exist yet. It's just an intersection point that the labeler is going to calculate. So I cannot use that using the selection tool because it's not a point that actually exists. So here, I'm going to drill down into the annotation and I'm going to select point station. Okay. And I'm going to save the preview and I'm going to say OK. So that'll go in parentheses. Now, that's what I want for the first alignment. I don't have to redo all that again. I can just cut and paste for the second alignment. All right. So here I've got 4 different fields that are being calculated, 2 names and 2 stations. Now, I want to add a couple more. Let's add the X coordinate of the intersection point. Okay. Now notice here the preview shows a foot symbol behind it. That's because we're taking the label format from the design file active settings from the working units. I could go to the design file and change that if I wanted to. In this case, though, I'm just going to say we'll just use the master unit. And notice when I do that, it takes the foot symbol off of it. And I'm going to save the preview and accept that. I want to do the same thing for the Y coordinate. So I'll select the point Y. I'll come down in here, select master unit. We'll do an accept. And now I've built my label. Now notice I've got 6 targets, 2 names, 2 stations, an X coordinate, and a Y coordinate. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to build a label. I'll just build it outside the tree here. I'm in manager mode. So I'm going to go to the label. I'm going to select the text favorite that I just built. Okay, inside my file here. Notice you got 6 targets. The number of targets always correspond to the number of computed fields in the text favorite. Now, first target, what do I want the user to do? I need them to select it. So the prompt type is select, and I'm going to customize my prompt, and I'm going to say ID the first alignment. Now, the second target, I don't need them to select the alignment again to calculate the station. So I'm just going to say it's the same as 1. Same thing with the feature name. I don't need them to select it again. Now, target 3, I need them to identify the second alignment. Okay. And again, target 4 is the station, which will be the same as target 3. Target 5 and 6, they could be the same as 1 or the same as 3. Right? But I don't need them to be identified again. So I got that all set up. You can see the colors change every time you ask the user to select something, just as a visual. I'm going to go in and select an element template. It picks up the dimension style. Notice my method here, this is very important, is intersection. So the labeler knows what you want it to do, which is to calculate an intersection point. I'm going to set a leader. In my case, I could do a frame or not. Element 1 is target 1. Element 2 is target 3. The reference would be if you have any settings that depend on an alignment. For example, maybe you want to rotate your rotation, you want it to correspond to the alignment. It needs to know, okay, if you do anything like that, which of those alignments do you want me to use? So I'm going to use target 1 as my reference alignment. I'm going to set my rotation to horizontal, and then we're going to go say place. Okay. Notice the prompt in the lower left says ID the first alignment. Then it says ID the second alignment. It's going to automatically calculate or figure out where the intersection point is. It's got my dynamic preview. I accept it. Alignment, G on BL1, that's the station for it. G on BL2, the station for it, and the X coordinate and the Y coordinate. So I just kind of wanted to go through. I know that helped me going through the process to see how the targets correspond to the computed text fields. And so hopefully that would help you guys as well. Okay, a few other things.